I don't know if you remember learning about how John Lennon and Yoko Ono went through primal scream therapy as a way to heal and wrote the first record, the Plastic Ono Band. But this therapy, which I should say psychologists don't fully agree with, it's not like peer reviewed or anything. But the process of it is just this like primal screaming process to let out all your trauma. And there was moments today where I felt the desire to find a place where I could just scream. Whoa, 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 whoa.
Hey everyone, it's 20 with Anna and Ida. I'm one of your co-hosts, Anna V. Escamani.
And I'm Ida V. Escamani.
And we're grateful that you have taken the time to join us again. I think we actually surpassed 3,000 streams, Ida, this past week.
Yeah. Really wild, because this is a very scrappy project that you and I put together. Such is the story of our lives and our schedules, but so grateful for folks hanging in with us and tuning in.
I know you quoted one of your many favorite songs to me to kind of capture this moment. I'd love for you to kind of share that with our listeners, because I feel like a lot of us are in that place right now.
Well, thank you. I did not expect you to allude to a Menzinger song from Scranton, Pennsylvania. But they've got a song called Toy Soldiers, which was up on my playlist recently. And it has a lyric that says something on the lines of, what am I to do with all this sorrow? There's so much to be sad about these days. And that just really hits home. I think there is just a constant heaviness, obviously to add even more stress to this week for us in the context of our lived experiences as Iranian Americans, just the chaos and the unhinged behavior of President Trump and the putting out just absurd messages and commentary and unilateral statements and just unhinged behavior. I can't think of any other word for it. Irrational, irresponsible, on Truth Social. Most recently, saying that he will destroy a civilization. I mean, it's just shocking rhetoric. It's absolutely shocking. He literally said, a whole civilization will die tonight, never to be brought back again. This is genocidal. This is not. And then on Easter, of course, cursing and praised to be a lot like just bizarre. In one place it's like comical, but then then you remember the man has a nuclear code and has already inflicted so much pain, and it's scary and overwhelming. This timeline's horrific, this thing we're living right now.
Well, we have a 25th Amendment for a reason. And I know there's been really strong statements made around that. And also one of our colleagues in Congress, Yasmin Ansari, she's actually pushing for the impeachment of Pete Hegseth, which is good too. It's been really affirming to see just a unified voice against this from members of Congress, and some degree in a bipartisan manner. But of course, the fact that we're even seeing international affairs be expressed on social media platforms, I mean, that alone is just so bizarre to me, right? We're talking about life and death situations, and we're talking about the future of sovereign countries and innocent people and service members, and yet this is where we get our updates, right? Is on a grift platform like Truth Social. I mean, it just makes a bad situation even worse, where that's where our information comes from. And you have reporters literally reading from their phones like statements for the first time. Like it's such a bizarre political environment where this is how we operate.
You've said this before, where it's the most unserious people doing the most serious things. And then when you add on top of it, having family in Iran, being your ancestral lands, I'm struggling to find the words, because it's been sometimes you feel like you're just a walking zombie, because it's like you're alive, but you're not living, because it's so horrifying and hard to process. And then you're also compelled to go about your day while this is also, it's a countdown to when an entire country is going to be annihilated. And of course, at the recording of this podcast, Trump has tacoed, as they say. Thank God he's backed out of it. And they're declaring a 2-week ceasefire. But the other layer, of course, as I think most of our listeners know, is this war has now turned into a fight over a thing that wasn't even a fight before it started. because now it's all about opening the Strait of Hormuz, which was open before America and Israel decided to bomb Iran. And so, and then the other piece, of course, as we know, is that nobody supports the Iranian government. The Islamic Republic of Iran is a heinous, awful regime, but folks would argue this has actually hardened them.
And that's the concern. Yeah. I mean, hearing from Iranians on the ground is a constant fear of all of this is happening for what reason? I mean, that's been a constant theme because the diaspora is split. And I think that it's safe to say that, Iranians came to the streets to protest their government in tens of thousands and millions. And of course, they were met with brute force and executions and massacres and so forth.
Consecutively over years now, and most recently, absolutely, January.
So you have a regime that could care less about the safety of its people up against a U.S. government that is operating really on the behest of the government of Israel and, pursuing an agenda with no clear plan beyond, what they say is regime change. But now President Trump is negotiating with this regime. So it's unclear if there even will be any type of shift. But to your point, there's a crisis with affordability in this country that was created by President Trump for this act of war. And now he's mad at Iran for doing what we all knew they would do. I mean, it's like, you literally create the problem that you're not mad about. It's just, totally absurd. And we've lost service members. We've lost innocent civilians. Of course, the de-Islamization goes way beyond Iran into Lebanon and other parts of the world. It's so interesting to see the partisan shift because I know you've been giving yourself the exposure. I don't know what else to call it. I've just been watching a lot of right-wing content. And it's funny because we were sitting in the living room and I was working on something.
Text matters when you say that.
Wait, hold on. Let me finish this. We're sitting, I'm in the living room. She's on the little bike and I'm on the couch working. And I hear this like little whiny voice. And I'm like, Ida, who is that? And she's like, it's Nick Fuentes. And I'm like, what is going on? And so, yes, Ida, please tell our listeners what, research you have been doing in the context of lurking and watching some of this media content from the right.
I've been lurking on Twitter, following some different far-right accounts. I think it's really important to see what our opposition is saying. And so the quick and dirty is, first of all, the anti-Semitism is just unreal. It is unreal. It's dangerous. It is scary. It is unprecedented. Like the just explicit hate of the Jewish community and generally all communities, right? Like the hate crimes, the hate being shared on all marginalized groups. But there's a lot of explicit anti-Semitism along with xenophobia, Islamophobia, white supremacy, hatred of women, all those pieces. Just like, and they say it in this way that's very nonchalant, like it's not a thing, But then the other layer, though, is this anti-war piece. And, Trump ran on stopping endless wars and no more wars and money staying here at home and all these pieces. And the fractures are there around this. The president ran on stopping wars and making America affordable. And he has literally done a U-turn on both of those fronts. And his biggest legislative accomplishment, the so-called One Big Beautiful Bill Act, gutted safety nets, it gutted healthcare, it gutted food safety, it gutted all these essential programs to supercharge ICE and to give away money in giant corporate and billionaire tax breaks. And now they're coming to Congress asking for more money to fund this war. And also the war itself is making the cost of gas higher. The tariffs made everyone's lives more expensive. I mean, it's unreal how he's just turned around on his promises. But I think for us, like, we're not surprised because we knew this guy never intended to actually make life more affordable. He scapegoated immigrants, women, Black folks, trans folks, like scapegoat every single community for economic struggle that everyone is facing so they can just keep grifting and run away with the money, right? Because even no matter how this war goes, for example, they've managed a ton of money already. They're investors, they're making bank. This is exactly the plan all along. This kind of government, like an authoritarian, relies on divide and conquer tactics and profiteering off of government, right? And so that is what they're achieving. And then, of course, trying to concentrate their power through various forms of suppression, whether it be voter suppression, criminalizing dissent, or like the governor's doing, being able to name any organization a terrorist group you don't like, right? Like all these different pieces.
Spot on, Ida. Spot on. It's been wild to see some of the splits in the Trump base on this, but also, of course, to see some people keep sticking with them. I mean, it's wild. And even just the division in our own diaspora is very complicated and heavy. But I just think it's so important to maintain our commitment to self-determination, to peace, and to a rejection of foreign intervention, which is why myself and a handful of other Iranian American elected officials who are women signed on to a letter stating all these points, because unfortunately we've seen a effort to really downplay the harm that's happening right now. And you can also argue that there's been efforts to downplay the regime's abhorrent history. And so in our letter, we made it very clear of outlining our opposition to the regime, but also our opposition to what is happening right now. And I just hope that this ceasefire that seems like Pakistan played a big role in negotiating stays, and that there can be an end to this violence and destruction. And with that said, if I can, I'd love to bring us back to Florida politics, because we have a lot to talk about in that regard. And a lot of folks tune in because you also want that local update. And we haven't had a legislative session for about 3 weeks now, but we are going back. And there's also been quite a few updates out of the Florida channel and state politics. And so
I came downstairs recently. Like I went down. It was maybe Monday night. I come down. No, I think it's Sunday.
I think it was like a weekend. It was a weekend night.
It's like a weekend. And
I think it was Saturday night. I think it was Saturday night.
Saturday night, I come downstairs. And I kind of first, my head's up. So first I see the TV and I see like the house floor. And I was just like, what? And then I look down and I see you on the floor, just surrounded by papers and your laptop, and just the whole floor is just taken over. And I was like, what are we doing? I thought this was like at least temporarily over. And then you're like, oh, well, we got to stay updated. And then I realized it was the Capitol update, like you were watching, which for folks who aren't familiar is nightly or weekly on it? How can follow?
It's nightly. We're giving the Florida channel a free promo right now. we'll add to their listener base. So the Florida channel is like, yeah, exactly. So the Florida channel is the state version of C-SPAN. You can find it on Roku and download the Roku app, but you can just watch it online. It's the easiest way to watch it. And yeah, Capitol Update is now a weekly review, but during session, they do a nightly review. I like to watch it to know what I missed. If I missed something, usually it's like a quiz for myself. Make sure I got all the weekly political news in the state of Florida. It's a great way to spend your night, let me tell you, when you're surrounded by papers. And I was also literally checking mail. I have to tell you, I have a whole new empathy for people that don't check mail that often. I have become one of those people, which is not something I ever wanted to say, but checking mail when you're a busy person is actually like quite a time-consuming activity. And
it's overwhelming because you think like, what are all these things that I need to do, or that I haven't addressed yet? Like I get overwhelmed. And when people send me gifts, like it's very sweet getting cards and obviously rarely, but when it happens, I won't open it for weeks because I feel this guilt around like, well, I don't deserve this, so I'm just going to put it away. Like, and then someone will text me like 6 months later, like, did you ever get the thing? And I'm like, oh my God, yeah. So no, mail is very difficult. It's very emotional.
Well, you're highlighting the positive parts of mail. There's also the negative parts of mail, like bills. But yeah, so that's what I was doing on Saturday before we headed to a Orlando Storm game with the team. So
that's great. We won a new local team.
Yeah, we did. Shout out to Austin at Group Sales for helping me out.
Anna, can you tell folks what was the origin of getting to the Orlando Storm's game? How did I clearly don't do sports. I'm like, I talk about a sport.
How did you learn about the who are the Orlando Storm, Anna? Could you tell our listeners who maybe know? Well, I learned about the Orlando Storm on NPR.
What a way to learn about sports. We love it.
And that just tells you like how much of a nerd I am, where I heard about a new sports team because I was listening to NPR. But yeah, Orlando Storm is it's a new football team for Orlando, another effort to have a football team, but it's not the NFL. It's like almost, I guess, like a minor league in a way, but it is like former NFL players. It's like folks who played in college but didn't make the cut of an NFL and are trying to, be seen by the NFL. It was really fun to be there. It was at the Interco Soccer Stadium and we won, which was always a great feeling. But I really try to find opportunities to take the team out of the office and like out of the campaign and legislative grind to just have a night, together. So I bought 20 group tickets and I was able to fill 19 of them. Shout out to Ricardo, bailed on me last minute, but it was a really great gathering. Really grateful that we were able to do that on Saturday night. And it was, it's funny. A lot of folks have asked, what are you going to Orlando Pride game or, Valkyries game, which is like our women's soccer team, women's volleyball team. Amazing champions, by the way. And I'm actually mapping that out. But let me tell y'all, my challenge is my calendar. Like, that was the only Saturday where I didn't have anything after 8 in a very long time because of Easter Sunday. So there were no events Saturday night for me, but that's pretty rare. So it's tough for me to kind of do those recreational things. But obviously I try to make it a priority because having pride in your local teams is important. It's important to me. And so I'm going to keep trying to find opportunities to bring the team out to have those opportunities of respite and just joy. It's definitely just my schedule is wild. I mean, we're recording this podcast at 9:00 at night because it was the only time that you and I had. And even though I'm back home, it's been a really busy time.
Yeah.
And speaking of just Tallahassee and going back, I wanted, if we can, I to talk a little more about like what bills have been signed into law and just what's kind of happening in state politics right now.
We're out of session right now. Governor DeSantis signed a few bills into law. He had some press conferences this week. What's the latest on bills that he's signed, lawsuits challenging those bills, and then also any clues or hints to just when special session starts and when y'all are back?
On the more controversial side, the governor signed multiple bills, but two I'll lift up include the Florida SAVE Act and also the terrorist designation bill. And we've talked about these bills before, but the Florida SAVE Act speaks for itself. It's another effort to make it harder to be a voter in Florida under the guise of preventing those who are not citizens from voting, which is not a problem in our state. So really, it uses that fear mongering to create more barriers to being eligible to vote for a citizen. And the second the governor signed that into law, a lawsuit was filed by amazing organizations on the ground that center on voter rights, including ACLU leading the charge and others. Now, remember, that law, just unlike the federal version of it, most of it does not go into effect until 2027. So we're not going to necessarily see the impact this cycle, but it absolutely creates, sorry about to bump this bell.
Someone took a tumble? Oh no, are you okay?
I was worried it involved a cat, but I will see Luke anywhere. So I think it's just, it's all these books demanding to be read. But anyways, so lawsuit filed, SAVE Act, non-effective 2027 compared to the federal version, which we're going to affect this cycle, but very concerning. And of course, the governor signed it with a lot of, fanfare from his base. The second bill I want to uplift is the terrorist designation policy. So this basically allows the Florida cabinet to designate organizations as domestic terrorists, which on paper sounds like a safety precaution and sounds maybe something that folks might think is agreeable. But the reality is that it gives authority to a political body to designate organizations with very little evidence to be a domestic terrorist group. And with that comes sanctions, censorship, and also punishment for anyone who affiliates with them, including expelling students. And when we look at this legislation in the context of course, the First Amendment, serious violations of free speech, but also under the banner of the Department of Homeland Security using the domestic terrorist label to demonize and undermine and attempt to whitewash their murders of anti-ICE protesters it really should ring alarm bells for everyone, because when you give the state that type of authority, it is just very vulnerable to abuse. And we already have examples of abuse. So I suspect litigation we filed about that legislation as well. Also, of course, bills are being delivered to the governor every week. And that's something that our listeners might not realize. Whenever a bill passes, it's not an automated process to go to the governor's desk. The Florida Senate, the Florida House leadership has to decide on when these bills go to the governor. And then that starts the clock of the governor having about 2 weeks to sign it or veto it. For example, I passed a bill on drowning prevention, but it hasn't been sent to the governor yet. And I don't really have a say in that. It's really leadership that decides when it goes. But just remember that you're going to be seeing a lot of bills make their way to the governor these next few weeks, even though the implementation date is usually not July 1st. They can be sent to him before that, or they can be sent to him right on that line. So it just really depends on what leadership decides to do. And of course, there's many political reasons that go into when a bill is sent and when it's held back.
Right. We often see it's the timing depends on, it could be something like a political rally or even a fundraising deadline or something like that. Or it's part of the negotiations between the governor and the House and the Senate. And they don't want to send a bill over until they've gotten like their guarantee that he's going to sign it based on, whatever negotiations are there. So to your point, it's all very, very timed. And this domestic terrorism bill is so dangerous in all the ways you shared. And we know that the label of a terrorist is something that is constantly used to dehumanize people, and to leverage fear and not understanding to dehumanize. There was a press conference that CARE Florida had earlier this week, the Council of American Islamic Relations, and they also had Jewish voices and Christian voices, and everyone's saying like, right now it's targeting Muslims and Palestinians and student protesters, but it will be you next. Like, this is the trick with these kind of tools. They're never just for folks who think they won't be impacted. You will be eventually. And that's why solidarity and not complying early and all those things are so important, because these are coming after everyone's rights. If you're not part of the elite class of people that are making these decisions, you're on the chopping block. And so solidarity is so important to stand together to fight back against these things.
Yeah, 100%. And with that said, special session is also something that was upcoming. The governor had a press conference where he outlined several different topics that could be included in a special session. So it's pretty unprecedented, uncertain right now. We know we have to go back to Tallahassee because we don't have a state budget. We know that a special session on congressional redistricting has already been called, and Equal Ground has actually announced a rally in Tallahassee on the 20th, and they have a pre-session call as well. We'll put down the call notes for folks. But we don't know if there'll be a special session on property taxes, if there'll be one on some of these other priority topics the governor's uplifted for himself that, for example, I mean, there's many. He has a long list. So we'll keep folks posted on all of that. But it's just really important to be on your toes with this, because we might be having some urgent calls to action in the days ahead as pertains to all these issues and more. So we definitely want to keep folks in the loop, but also encourage you to watch out for updates beyond this podcast, because we very well might be in Tallahassee tomorrow. I mean, there's no required notice for lawmakers. So they can call a special session and we got to be there ASAP. For someone like me who doesn't have a place to stay in Tallahassee because it's very complicated, but there's nothing to stop them from asking us to come back immediately. So we'll see.
Well, and this I feel like is local news, being so close to the Space Coast, but there was a glimmer of just like a different future. I think this last week with the Artemis launch and the shuttle, and I'm so curious on how do you reflect on just this historic moment and the juxtaposition, I think, of just this historic exploration compared to just everything happening here on Earth,
on planet Earth. I mean, I was at a Berry Law School when our Artemis was going up into the air. I had a speaking engagement at Berry Law. I was just rushing from one location to the other while all this news is happening. I was running late to Berry Law, and I texted the students to tell them that I was running late. And they said, "Oh, don't worry, we're outside watching the rocket launch." And it was really beautiful to be outside with a bunch of law kids, law students, outside Berry Law, Colonial near Summeron, and just, watching this rocket go up. And it really reminded me of our childhood, Ida. One of the, beautiful aspects of growing up in Orlando and growing up in Florida is that you see this phenomenon, this incredible monumental experience of rockets going up. And it really is a demonstration of like what humankind is capable of. And what I find to be so remarkable about it is we have all this power and all these resources to destroy one another, or we can use those same dollars and that same talent to explore the universe. And I just wish we chose the latter more. And it really reminds me of Carl Sagan, which you and I grew up watching lots of Carl Sagan. And he talks about this in the context of like nuclear energy and nuclear technology, of how it can be used to explore the universe, or it can be used to destroy it. The astronauts in particular are also just history makers in their own right. And the fact that we can be proud of that and talk about that, despite rhetoric of the Trump administration that doesn't matter and we shouldn't acknowledge it, the fact that we still do, I love seeing that, because I feel like we're being told to not like honor that history, right? Like it's so interesting. Republican women that are making history as Republican women, and they can't even talk about it. Like, because it's like seen taboo to talk about it. And it's like, no, you should be proud that you're making history. And yet they're not acknowledging it, because in their base, it's like DR, whatever, that they can't acknowledge the fact that they broke a glass ceiling. It's like so sad. And they're like pushing that on the rest of us to not honor those moments. And it's just really like amazing to see everyone uplifting and recognizing that, the specialness of that. And I know I joked this earlier, but it's like, I've always loved space. Like, I mean, who doesn't love space? But I will tell you that a lot of these billionaires have made me less enthusiastic, like Elon Musk as an example. And so it also reminded me of like why I love space. So that was a great feeling of like, oh yeah, like space is good, because you just kind of feel disenchanted when you see people just looking at it as a profit machine versus totally human exploration. Yeah. Yeah. Musk and Bezos have really just taken so much magic out of something that is so magical. I think the inspiration, my hope, is spans like a whole generation, right? I do sometimes wonder, I'm like, why weren't we already, like, I feel like we're a little behind in the sense of like, we got to the moon, why didn't we just like hop over and keep doing it? But I think it's called money. I think it's called money, honey. Money. This one did cost a lot of money and was longer than intended, but I'd rather the money be spent on space exploration for humankind than, to your point, endless wars and destruction. So this is the thing. There's plenty of money for things too. In a perfect world, we could explore space and have healthcare for everybody. And like, what a gift! I think the only thing I could add is a quote from Carl Sagan: "If you wish to make an apple pie from scratch, you must first invent the universe." I could also do his whale sounds, but I don't think that's gonna. Yeah, maybe not right now. Maybe next time. That's great. That's epic. I think it's a great way to close this episode. Let's give lots of love to our astronauts, and as they help demonstrate the best of humanity, and let's live that in our own lives as much as we can. Well, thanks everyone for tuning in to Twinning with Anna and Ida. We are eager to bring on guests and to continue to deliver these conversations to you. So stay tuned for more information. And as always, we appreciate you tuning in. Please be safe, and we'll talk soon. Absolutely. See y'all soon.
It's my best dream or everyone's worst nightmare.